Hey, what's up guys? Airsoft Man 819 coming at you with another PC component video. Today's video is going to be on a really cool and somewhat rare motherboard. And I actually was lucky enough to find this one brand new. This is an Intel X58 motherboard. Before I get too much into this board, basically my Ryzen 5 3600 system with the 1080 GTX 1080 for the Win 2. Some tough times hit recently and I had to sell that build. So I'm working on a couple more budget-oriented builds because I don't have the finances to really do much right now. Hopefully that changes, but you know, can't talk. Tough times hit everybody. You know, I can't sit here and throw a pity party for myself. You know, I'm blessed and I'm very fortunate. It's just tough times happen to everybody, and I'm having some tough times right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stay that way. But that also doesn't mean I'm going to stop making videos, because I love making YouTube videos, and I'm going to keep doing that as long as I can. So, a little bit of background on the X58. It's a pretty old chipset, pretty old basis for a machine in 2021. Intel hasn't made motherboards since 2013, so getting the drivers and stuff for these old Intel boards is kind of difficult to do. But fortunately for that reason, it seems like these, especially these older, more expensive Intel motherboards, are starting to come down in price due to the lack of driver support and stuff. But luckily I've got all the updated drivers and stuff already downloaded to another PC. That way I can install them on this once I get this up and running into a case. So for the most part, this is a brand new motherboard. This motherboard in particular was designed for the first generation i7. So this is essentially one of the, if not the first, motherboard designed by Intel for the first gen i7 platform and the Xeons later on. So this was pretty much Intel's, you know, first really big server-sized platform, and it definitely is big. It's definitely bigger than most of the stuff I'm used to working with in desktops. It's pretty comparable to LGA 2011. I did have an X99 board in my Thor build that I did, my ridiculous beast Intel build that I did all wrong. Yeah, that had an X99 board in it. So I have messed with the X boards before. Just know that if you're getting into an X series board, this is, you know, this is for the big boys. This isn't something to mess around with. You know, these boards are designed to handle a lot of power, not only on the processor side, but on the graphical side. The chipset is designed to handle, you know, quite a bit. So this isn't your average everyday desktop board. So, like I said, I was fortunate enough to find this one new. The box has been opened, but the board itself is still sealed. So, X58SO. It supports triple channel memory, being more of a server-based platform, and it's not really something you see very often anymore. It was pretty popular in the early days of the X chipsets, but dual channel is pretty much the king now. I mean, obviously you have triple and quad channels still, but they're not quite as popular as they used to be. The cool thing is this is supposed to include a full retail copy of Ghost Recon 2, which is really neat. So, all right, so the seal on the box has been cut, but the motherboard itself is still sealed. I'm assuming they just did that to get pictures and stuff of it. So, have a little advertisement for Intel SSDs, which SSDs are actually a fairly new thing. Consumer grade SSDs anyway were a fairly new thing when this came out. So, just a sheet talking about the drivers and the RAM compatibility. A little sticker for the inside of your case with a little bit of the layout of the motherboard and the front panel connectors. Some more advertisement that's so old it doesn't matter. Here's our copy of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. I'm assuming that would work, I don't know. Here's our drivers. and bonus application software, all of which is probably no longer any good, and some of these don't even exist anymore at all. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that would do. A whole bunch of these really gaudy translucent blue SATA cables. I mean, they work and you shouldn't have any problems with them, but they're just a little bit ugly. But it's brand new, obviously. So you have a little aluminum chipset cover. Pretty sure this is for your South Bridge. This motherboard has active cooling on the chipset because the chipset, you know, runs pretty warm. You don't have to put this on there, but I would recommend you do, especially if you're going to overclock it, just to give yourself some cooling headroom on your North Bridge. Anyways, here's your mounting for the fan. There's a little bracket that mounts the fan to your chipset. I/O shield. Intel boards have the worst I/O shields. I really like Intel boards, but I hate their I/O shields. They're so cheap. Even a 10-year-old one is still cheap. It's funny, Far Cry 2 was a new and upcoming thing when this board came out. Gives you an idea how old it is. Yeah, I would exercise caution, and I'll tell you guys this now, messing with these old boards, because they don't have all the same support and security protections that the newer stuff does. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. What is this? Noobs beware, you will be pwned, and it's a door hanger. Who would actually use this? What the... This was just a different time, man. The sad part is this was around the time I got into PC gaming. Early 2010s. A little bit about their RAID controller cards. This will be more for like a server setup, but I mean, you can use RAID controller cards if you want on your desktop. Little quick setup guide for your X58SO. So now that we've got all the BS out of the way, man, this thing is pretty. It has never been out of this plastic. So this is as far as I've been with it. So you guys are seeing this for the first time, me pulling this thing out of here. So I've not had this completely out of here since I got the board. So we're just gonna get our box open here. I mean, closed. I'm saying I'm opening the box in the process of closing it. That shows you how in tune I am right now. So you can see this sticker has never been undone. It's still in the anti-static bag. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop the cherry on this thing. And yes, I did say that. No, I'm not taking it back. Oh. Okay. I'm going to, off camera, carefully pull this out of its anti-static bag and set it to the side, because I am going to put it back in when I'm done, because I'm not using this right now. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and set this down, and I'm probably going to dismount the camera so you can get a better view of what is going on here. So dismount the camera, move our tripod out of the way, and take a look at this beauty right here. I'm going to zoom out, that way my resolution's a little better. A little sharper, actually, I should say. So, yeah, just a really beautiful motherboard. I mean, Intel boards, I mean, they really pulled out on all the stops on these. It's pretty incredible. Despite being a very old system, you know, this socket came out right after 775. The socket on this is LGA 1366, by the way. It's like I said, it's an old socket. It's not something you'll see anymore. There was only a couple different chipsets that used the 1366. So you have 4 RAM slots here, but 3 of them are blue and 1 of them is black. That's because this is, being an X58 motherboard, this can support triple channel RAM. So if you want triple channel, you put 3 sticks, not 4 or 2, 3 specifically, matching, in these 3 blue slots, and that gives you triple channel RAM, which means your computer can access 3 sticks of memory all at once instead of having to bounce between them, which gives you a little bit more bandwidth on your RAM, which is nice. You'll see a little bit, you know, in regular everyday use, you'll see a little bit of extra performance. Over dual channel nowadays, because we have RAM speeds that are so high, it doesn't have as much of an advantage as it used to, but it's still cool, you know, and it still works. So that's nice to have. So here's your chipset. This is where your fan would go. This little bracket here actually attaches to this and holds the fan to the chipset. So that's how that works. And you also have your south bridge right here, which this little cover can slide over and gives you a little Intel skull if that's your thing. So I'm not going to go over the super technicalities of this board because I'm not an expert. I just know that it's a badass, good looking motherboard that I was really lucky to find. But 2, 4, 6 SATA ports. That's going to be SATA 2, obviously, being this old. You have an 8-pin CPU power. You're going to need that because this is an overclocking board. You do have an LCD for your postcodes. Where is that at? I just saw it a minute ago. Thought there was an LCD for your postcodes. If not, you'll just have to listen for the beeps, I guess. So, really good heat sinks on it. Anodized blue aluminum. I wonder if that CMOS battery is still good or not. Lots of fan connectors. Those are marked in red, which is a cool thing on Intel boards. That's one way you can tell an Intel board is if it's got red fan connectors on it. ATX. 24-pin power. PCI X4, X16, X1, PCI 2.1, I think, and PCI Express. You have 2 X16 slots, 2 X1s, an X4, and a legacy PCI, which at the time that this was made, it wasn't quite as legacy, but... and interestingly enough, because this has 2 X16 slots, the way they did this is that you need an external power connector to power your PCI Express slots, and you have 2 means of doing that. You have a 4-pin Molex connector here to power your graphics card slots, or you have a SATA power connector down here that you can run off your power supply as well. Not all motherboards do that, not even all X58s, but this one does because it's old, and that's just how they did it. So, and it's ATX standard form factor, by the way. So, I'm not going to go super into this right now because there's more I want to do with it. I want to hook it up, get it going, get it tested, make sure that it's working. I've got 2 processors for it on the way. That might sound goofy, but the reason is because I want to put a Xeon X5677 in this, but it will not work out of the box. I have to have something in there that's compatible out of the box so I can update the BIOS and the drivers. So I have an i7-950, which will work in here out of the box. It's just not as good as a Xeon. So I'm going to drop the 950 in here once it gets here, update the BIOS, make sure it's all working, get the Xeon in it, and get it inside of a case. And I'm still kind of trying to decide what case I want to put this in. Because I had to take the Phenom build out of my Antec server case, I feel like this would be a perfect board to put in the server case because technically speaking, in a lot of ways, this is a server platform, even though it was kind of originally made for the i7s as well. But the X58 really, really shines when it comes to server hardware. So, but it's a really good workstation chipset, and it's really good for gaming too. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video on a really cool Intel motherboard, and stay tuned for what I'm going to be doing with it, because hopefully I can get it in something soon and we can see it running. And I also bought a specific cooler to put on this, because the LGA 1366 socket is actually quite a bit bigger than a lot of other sockets. So finding a cooler that can fit it is kind of tricky. But I do have one, and it is pretty neat, and I'm going to be making a video on it as well. So whether or not it drops before or after this, I'm not sure. But I got to go because holding the camera is making me shake now. So see you guys later, and stay tuned for the next one. Airsoft Man 819 out.